Hey guys, Pete here. The Expanse Season 4 dropped on Amazon and I binged my way all the way through it. There's some major changes in the way the story played out compared to the books, but essentially we end up in the same place that we get to somewhere in the 5th book. So this is just an explanation of what happened. It will spoil everything that you saw in Season 4, so if you haven't watched that yet, you don't want to watch this video. I've read all the books that are out and I won't spoil those, but this will be a quick explanation of where things end up without spoiling what's going to happen next. So The Expanse has always been a story about 3 different factions: the Earth, Mars, and the Belt. The protomolecule was created by another civilization, which we don't know a whole lot about, but we do know that they don't exist anymore. Something else wiped them out. Season 3 of The Expanse ended with the ring gates opening, and Season 4 shows us the effect that's had on the rest of the other factions. The whole story revolves around the crew of the Rocinante. James Holden is an Earther, Amos is an Earther, Alex is a Martian, and Naomi is a Belter. They all came together. You know the story of how that happened. And in Season 4, they're sent by Earth to go to Ilus, which is the first planet that's been inhabited outside of the ring gates. Ilus itself isn't that important. What is important is the fact that there's 1,300 habitable worlds out there now, and that has the potential to change everything. Before we get into how that changes everything, let's talk about what happens on Ilus with the crew of the Rocinante. There's basically 3 important takeaways that happen there. One is that a land grab with all these different new worlds would be messy and dangerous. We see that it'd be messy because Belters get there first. They try to take over the planet. Earth sends RCE. They have a legitimate claim and fighting ensues. We see that it's dangerous because all these worlds are habitable, but they're all different systems where life was created independently, so it's different. We see this with the death slugs and with the eye infections that everybody gets and starts going blind. You can't just go to these places and not expect there to be some dangers. The next thing is that not all Belters can actually move onto a planet just because it has an atmosphere. I was surprised whenever I saw the trailers that Naomi went down the well, like it wasn't something that happened in the books. It makes sense now after seeing that in the season. She's our example of someone who is in relatively good health, should be able to take the medications and prepare and then be able to live on a planet. It doesn't go that way. And this is important for all the Belters because there's going to be this rush to these new worlds and not all of them can actually participate. The third thing is that still no one really understands the protomolecule ring builders, who they were, and what happened to them. Proto Miller, the version of Miller that's created from the protomolecule, is our bridge with that, and he is able to shut down everything that comes to life on this planet whenever they arrive. But he does that using the bullet, this black hole thing that's underneath the structure, and that is left over from the civilization that destroyed the one that built all the rings. So we don't really understand what's going on with that, but we know that there is something bigger than just Earth, Mars, and the Belt and the people who created the protomolecule. In the end, the new character Elvi plays a role to help Miller shut off the protomolecule. That destroys him. Before that, he tells Holden about protomolecule that was on the Rocinante. That's where he came from. The fact that that active protomolecule was on their ship was how he was able to manifest. So it is the end of his story as far as we know. For everyone else there, some of the Belters stay behind, some of the scientists stay behind, Elvi and Fayez stay there, and the crew of the Roci take off and leave back through the ring gate. All of the stuff that happens on Mars and on Earth is added. It's not in the book for this part of the story. Most of it works to get us to where we need to be. In book 4, Cibola Burn, Bobbie is the prologue and Avasarala is the epilogue. Otherwise, we don't hear of Earth because the area outside the ring gates is really far away. And that's part of the tension that happens there, is that nobody can just show up and fix things. So the big takeaways from Mars are that with the ring gates opening, Mars itself really isn't important anymore. Mars was a colony. It gained its independence from Earth because of the Epstein drive. Whenever that was created there, that gave them a technological superiority. So they made a deal to share that with Earth, and they got their independence. They've been on this generational plan to terraform the planet. Now there's 1,300 other worlds out there. They don't need to do that to Mars anymore. And we get this through Bobbie's story. story. We see that people who were in it for the long haul, that were good Martians, are now starting to question whether they need to stay there anymore. The other big thing here is that somebody high up in the Martian military is aiding Marco and helping them get their materials that they need to set this plan we see at the end of the episode in motion. We don't know who that is at this point, but that's a pretty big deal because Mars was always the straight shooters, the guys who were all sort of working together for the greater good of their own planet. This is also a big deal because Mars has a really strong military. The Roci is a Martian ship. We know that that's advanced, and that plays a big part in enabling them to do what they do. Mars also has stealth technology, which is ahead of the Earth, and in general has a technological advantage as far as their Navy is concerned. Although you remember from the previous seasons that Earth has more ships, so there is a balance. But the fact that those are out there and that someone might get them or someone might use them against the rest of the solar system is a big thing to think about. The story on Earth is basically Avasarala wants to stop the gold rush. It causes a lot of problems. We have this idea of her being in an election where her opponent is for that. Her opponent's for going through the rings. She wants to keep that from happening because of all the problems that she can see that could happen. And what we saw happen on Ilus is just the beginning. Her losing the election at the end means that that expansion is going to happen, and it also takes Avasarala off of Earth and sends her to the moon. The final faction is, of course, the Belters, and we can see here that there's several different groups inside that group, essentially vying for power. The TV show moved the Marco storyline up, but it ends in exactly the same place. How they get the weapons and the stealth technology is a little bit different, but here they just use that as a way to show you what's going on with Mars. So at the end of the story, Marco has got his plan in action. He's put stealth technology on asteroids and he's flung them at Earth. This is huge because while everybody's always been against Earth and being underneath their control, it's been unthinkable to this point to attack the planet where all life came from. He sees the opening of the gates as an opportunity, not for Belters to spread themselves out through the different gates and populate planets, but to be in control of things outside of the inner planets where everyone's going to be traveling to go through all these gates. So at the end of the season, we see that he's put his plan into motion. He wants to attack Earth. He has some kind of an alliance or an arrangement with somebody high up in the Martian military. We have to imagine that those people know that he's trying to weaken Earth and that they're on board for that. The other thing that happens at the end here is that Ashford does die, but as he's being spaced, he's able to record Marco and send that out. So that will alert someone to what these plans are, but it's not clear if there's any way anybody can stop it. Remember, they used the Sojourner to run a test to learn about the capabilities they have for their defenses on Earth. So they're launching these asteroids or throwing these rocks based on the data that they already have about that. So we don't really know about how long it's going to take, if Earth will be able to detect them, what they can do in response, and whether or not his message will help that in any way. Avasarala has lost her power. She's no longer in charge. Earth is going to be moving forward, wanting to expand through the ring gates. Mars is going to lose population. People are going to flee from there. They're also going to travel through the gates and try to build new colonies and new worlds through the rings. And of course, we know that something built the protomolecule. The protomolecule went out into the universe and built the ring gates, which are essentially wormholes that connect really far away places together. And then we also know that there's something else that destroyed that civilization who built the protomolecule. And that is what the setup is. Season 4 is a big setup season. Everything that I talked about here will be important for later. There's basically 2 big story arcs that follow after this. One of them concludes in book 6, and then the last one is still playing out as we wait for the last book to be released. The way they did this, season 5 could get all the way through books 5 and 6, I think, depending on how they break things up. I think once we get there, that will make a lot of sense as far as how they decided to bring Marco into the story a little bit early. One of the big things you have to keep in mind here is that Philip is Naomi's son. Marco is her ex-lover. We saw her talking to Fred trying to find him, and we know that he was present on Mars, and he was present there with his dad whenever they killed Ashford. So So that's going to complicate things for the crew of the Roci. And since I don't want to spoil anything that's going to happen, I won't talk about any of the rest of what happens with them. But you can imagine they're going to be in the center of everything, as they are with all of the stories in the Expanse universe. And I think it was a pretty good season. I enjoyed it. I hope this video is helpful to tie everything together after watching it. I'm not a big fan of binge series. I like to watch week to week, but this is the way they're going to do it. I'm going to still watch the show. I like it. I can't wait till the next book comes out. So let me know in the comments what you thought. Did you like watching it as a binge show? Do you think they did a good job now that they moved to Amazon? Do you think this is a good adaptation of book 4 and parts of book 5? Do you like the decisions that they made? If you like the TV series, I would highly recommend the book series. Just like anything, you get a lot more out of the characters. You get different point of views, and things are a lot more layered. In general, I think this has been one of the better adaptations I've seen. They have consolidated characters. I do have some questions about where Drummer's character is going after this, since she's a combination of a few different characters from the book. I'm hoping that we'll see more Fred Johnson. If you're missing him there, I think there's a good possibility we'll see some more of him in the next season. And I think that's about all I want to say, because I really don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't had a chance to read ahead yet. Miller's ending was pretty good. It seemed like in the book we had more of him than we do here, but I liked the way they handled his ending. And as I mentioned there, when he tells them to remove the protomolecule, that should, for all intents and purposes, based on what we know, mean that we won't see Miller again throughout the series. Holden has something going on with him, obviously, because he was in the station and he made that circuit. Elvi would also have some kind of a connection at this point because she went through the bullet, the black hole thing that's on Ilus. But all of that's still pretty mysterious. So those are the kinds of things that we have to keep reading and keep watching to find out about. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to see other videos like it. Thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon.